Hey guys, welcome back to the Zimmerly Eats channel. I'm Nick Zimmerly, and today's video we're going to be making homemade kefir, or kefir, however you pronounce it, but I believe traditionally it is called kefir. And so this is a fermented milk product, very similar to yogurt, and it's one of the more, a lot of people who eat yogurt do it for health benefits, for your gut, and this is like yogurt times 1,000. This is so healthy for you, and this, a lot of people use it for cheese making. So I've mentioned in a couple of my cheese making videos, you can also use this as a mesophilic culture for cheese making, and of course you can just eat it as you would normal yogurt. So let's get started. All right, so here I've got I've strained the kefir from my last batch of kefir, which is in here, and here I have the kefir grains. I've got roughly, probably a little more than 2 tablespoons, but you'll use 1 tablespoon per cup of milk. And so I've got about a quart here, so that will make this, like I said, this is roughly a little more than 2 tablespoons, so this should make a quart of kefir. So we're gonna go ahead, and if I can show you, these kefir grains are literally like cottage cheese, just not with all the soupiness. It's just essentially just the cheese part of cottage cheese is what it looks like. And so these are the cultures that kind of like a kombucha has a SCOBY. This is that. So this is the catalyst for the fermentation. So we've got our quart size jar. We're gonna put our kefir grains in. And now I used a stainless steel non-reactive strainer for this. A lot of people suggest to use plastic, but if you do have a reactive metal strainer, then that's not going to be good for your cultures. It will actually interfere with the fermentation. So this is safe to use, but if you want to just use plastic just to be safe, that's totally acceptable. And so here I have a little bit of milk, and I've added a little bit of cream to it actually, because I like it. It'll make a firmer, thicker kefir, and that's how I like it. But you can absolutely just use milk. And like with any other dairy product, if you can get your hands on raw milk, that's even better. But store-bought milk will work just fine. And I would, since it has more fat in it, I would recommend whole milk. And like I said, I've added a little bit of cream to mine. So as long as it's not lactose free, the kefir grains need lactose to feed on to ferment. So we're gonna fill this up. And you know what? I'm not gonna fill it quite to the top because the amount of grains that I have, kefir grains. But just know that as you make your kefir over and over and over again, you'll notice that these grains will multiply actually pretty quickly. So I'm actually just gonna top this off a little bit. Okay, and so you're just gonna wanna cover this up. You can put a lid on it, but you don't wanna seal that lid. It needs oxygen to breathe. So you can lightly put a lid on it, or you can even put a coffee filter or a cloth with a rubber band, so it can breathe, but nothing else gets inside of it. So this should take about roughly 24 hours. And sometimes you can even let it go to 48 hours. And the longer it goes, the more sour it will be, or acidic that it will be. But you don't want it to go too much longer than that, because it will run out of the lactose to feed on, in which it will, the cultures will die. So 48 hours is about as long as you want it to go. So we're gonna set this on a shelf in a cabinet somewhere, and we'll check on it in 24 hours. All right, so we've got our fully fermented kefir right here. And like I said before, I've added a little cream to my milk, so it's come out a little thicker than it would without, but you can absolutely use some whole milk and fresh cow's milk would be preferable, but you can use store-bought milk as long as there's lactose in there for the kefir grains to feed on. So we're gonna strain this. All right. Get every little bit out of there. So, what I like to do is make a parfait out of this. And I like to add a little bit of honey to it to flavor it up. But at this moment, it's like, it tastes just like Greek yogurt, just plain Greek yogurt. So I'm gonna add this back to my container, and I can add more milk and cream to it to make my next batch. So, all right, so I got a little glass right here to try some. All right, like I said, it's nice and thick, which is how I like it. So, got some homemade kefir. See, that tastes like just like Greek yogurt. So, like I said, I like to flavor mine with some honey, or I make preserves. That's perfect for flavoring it. So, you can even do a second ferment if you added some fresh mangoes or something to it, and let it sit in your fridge for another day or so. That would make it thicker and give it more flavor. Gosh, that's wonderful. So, and like I said, you can also use this as a starter culture for cheese making, a mesophilic starter culture. So, say you wanted to make some blue cheese or some cheddar cheese, you can use a quarter cup to half a cup of this per gallon of milk. And that would use, if you are used to using freeze-dried cultures, you can substitute this. So, if I would encourage you to try this out, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.